I, of course, know that you had the interesting experience of actually meeting Dr. Freud, and I wonder, perhaps as to get off into this discussion, you might comment a little bit about your impressions of Freud in that meeting.
You want to hear about my one encounter with Freud? It did turn out to be very significant in my professional development, so I'll tell you the story briefly. Not long after I finished college, I found myself in Vienna, and that time Freud, of course, was renowned, but not perhaps so much so as a little later. At any rate, I wrote him a note and announced that I was in Vienna, that no doubt he'd be glad to know it. And he was very courteous. In his own hand, he wrote me a note, invited me to his office at a certain time. So I went to the famous Berggasse office, papered in red burlap paper, really, with pictures of dreams. And exactly at the appointed time, he opened the door from his inner office and invited me in, smilingly, and I sat down, and he said nothing. So it suddenly occurred to me that it was up to me to have a reason for calling on him. But actually, I didn't have any. I was just curious. But I fished around my mind, and I came up with an event on the tram car coming out to his office that I thought would interest him. He was a little boy, about 4 years old. And he obviously had a dirt phobia at that age. His mother was a housefrau that was well starched, very prim, and the little boy would say he didn't want to sit there, it's dirty, and he didn't want that man to sit next to him, he was dirty. And so it went, and the whole trip. Well, I thought this might interest Freud to know how early a dirt phobia could be set. He listened till I finished. Then he fixed his therapeutic eye on me and said, "And was that little boy you?" And it was not, honestly, but I felt guilty. At any rate, I managed to change the conversation. But thinking that little episode over, it grew in importance to me, because the fact is that Freud, with his tendency to see pathological traits, and most of his people came to see him were patients, of course, it was natural. He'd break through my defenses and get down to business, you see. But actually, he mistook my motives. If he had said, well, here's a brassy young American youth, or a tourist who is imposing on my good nature and time, he would have been somewhere near correct, I think. But to ascribe my motivation to the unconscious in this case was definitely wrong. So in thinking that over in subsequent months and years, it occurred to me there might be a place for another type of theory of personality and motivation.